Throughout my life, I've always had a passion for fitness and exercise. Running, lifting weights, and engaging in calisthenics have been integral parts of my routine. It all began in my dad's basement, where I started working out with the equipment he had. Over the years, my dedication grew, and we eventually transformed the basement into a full-fledged gym setup. I'm incredibly fond of it, but my social and extroverted nature drives me to enjoy outdoor activities and spending time with friends. Thus, I still occasionally visit a public gym with one specific friend, Garrett, who generously lets me be his guest. Now, let me share an unusual incident that occurred during one of our visits. We arrived at the gym one evening around 7:30 to 8:00 p.m. It was midwinter in northern Michigan, so it was already dark outside. Up until this particular day, our gym sessions had been uneventful, but what transpired was truly unexpected. However, before delving into the main event, let's set the scene and provide some context. My friend Garrett and I often indulged in some social activities after the gym, like hitting the bar or even going to clubs to have fun and possibly meet girls. We had done this on several occasions and occasionally managed to bring someone home. The gym we visited was located in a somewhat sketchy part of town with a reputation for crime. Despite that, we felt relatively safe due to our size and confidence. The gym was merely a short distance from our parked cars, so we didn't anticipate any issues while leaving. On the fateful night, however, our plans took an unexpected turn. As we were leaving, we noticed a group of 5 or 6 guys hanging around near Garrett's truck. They were playing music and smoking weed. Initially, we weren't too concerned, but as we approached, their behavior changed. One of them pointed at us, and the music grew quieter as they whispered to each other. Suddenly, one of the guys identified Garrett and said, "Yeah, that's him, 100. Man, trust me." He then tapped Garrett's chest and asked if I heard him. I assured Garrett that we should ignore them and get into the car, urging him to leave. However, the men positioned themselves in front of our car, indicating that the situation was taking a darker turn. I began to worry, wondering if we might end up in a fight or worse. The intentions of these guys were unclear, but the atmosphere grew tense. It didn't take long for the commotion to escalate. We learned that one of the guys was the boyfriend of a girl Garrett had recently been involved with. Things escalated quickly, and tensions flared as threats were exchanged between Garrett and the group. It was apparent that the boyfriend of the girl was particularly hostile, and the situation was spiraling out of control. Amidst the chaos, Aret reached into his pocket, presumably retrieving a switchblade he carried for protection. At this point, my concern heightened. I felt that a fight might be inevitable. The atmosphere was charged with uncertainty, and it became clear that the group's intentions were far from friendly. The situation rapidly took a dangerous turn when the girl's boyfriend brandished a gun, pointing it at us. Panic surged through me, and my instinct was to run. In contrast, Garrett reacted differently, swiftly producing his knife and attempting to attack the guy. Unfortunately, his attempt failed, and the confrontation ended with the boyfriend shooting Garrett in the leg. It seemed the boyfriend wasn't expecting to use the gun, and the situation took a sudden and violent turn. After shooting Garrett, the boyfriend issued a chilling warning, cautioning us to stay away from his girlfriend, threatening us with more severe consequences if we didn't heed his words. The group hastily departed, clearly not wanting to be caught by the authorities. Our priorities shifted instantly to getting Garrett to a hospital for medical attention. Despite his injuries, Giers made a surprising choice not to report the incident to the police. While I found his decision perplexing, I also understood his reasoning. Garrett believed that if he were to snitch, the retaliation from the boyfriend and his associates might put his life at risk. As much as I didn't entirely agree with his choice, I empathized with his concerns. Fortunately, Garrett's recovery was relatively swift, and he suffered no life-threatening consequences. He did experience some residual leg pain and joint complications, but his recovery was overall successful. While I may not fully endorse his decision, I can comprehend his perspective. Ultimately, the choice was his to make, and I'm relieved that he emerged from the ordeal relatively unscathed. This dramatic incident has become my unforgettable gym story, underscoring the unexpected turns life can take. For over a year now, I have been going to the gym regularly, hitting the gym 3 to 5 times each week. The days I choose to go depend on how I'm feeling, but I find that the best time to work out is early in the morning, around 6 or 7 on a weekday. During those hours, the gym tends to be less crowded, making the experience much more enjoyable. I remember an incident that happened at a gym I used to go to, called Planet Fitness. It was often packed, with about 100 people, sweating and waiting for their turn on the equipment. This crowded environment wasn't ideal, and that's why I decided to switch to a different gym, a smaller one, in my town. Although it's a bit pricier, it's been worth it, as I don't have to deal with as many uncomfortable situations. This new gym offers some additional amenities, like a pool that Planet Fitness didn't have, which makes it a really nice place to work out. The Planet Fitness I used to attend was located in a rougher part of town, which unfortunately seemed to attract some unsavory individuals. Nevertheless, it was the first gym I tried, because I was quite nervous and had little knowledge about how to use the equipment properly. One thing I really appreciated about that gym was their motto of being non-judgmental, creating a welcoming environment for newcomers like me. I knew that there would be other beginners there, which is why I initially chose it. Plus, back then, I didn't have a lot of extra money, and Planet Fitness was reasonably priced, making it a good fit for my budget. At the start, everything was going smoothly. I didn't have many complaints, except for a few instances when some guys would approach me. However, they usually backed off when I made it clear I wasn't interested. Thankfully, those situations were infrequent. There was this one guy named John who was a bit different though. He always tried to strike up conversations with me, and it felt like he was always there whenever I was. He didn't outright flirt, but his interactions had a subtle, flirtatious undertone. While he kept it light and not too obvious, I could sense that he wanted something from me. Although he wasn't unattractive, I just wasn't interested in him. My main focus at the gym was achieving my fitness goals, not meeting guys. This sense of purpose guided me each day. Then, one Saturday night, around 10:20, I suddenly felt an urge to work out. I thought, why not hit the gym? I figured it would be relatively empty at that hour, and I was right. When I arrived, the place was eerily quiet. There were only a few people around, including an older lady on the treadmill and a couple of individuals working out. Unexpectedly, I saw Sean there too. True to form, He approached me as usual, attempting to engage in conversation. However, I wasn't in the mood and kindly asked to be left alone. Sean, however, wasn't patient, and a completely different side of him emerged. His gaze became intense, and his demeanor shifted. His behavior took me aback. He disregarded my request and grew insistent, questioning why I couldn't just talk to him. This situation left me furious, yet at the same time, I was frightened. We were isolated from everyone else, even though security cameras were present. But those cameras couldn't prevent him from causing harm if he chose to. In a sudden and shocking turn of events, he grabbed my rear end without permission. Then, he attempted to pull me closer, his intentions unmistakable. In my defense, I slented him and used my nails to try and fend him off. However, things escalated, and he began choking me. I felt a wave of panic and fear, struggling for breath as the oxygen seemed to vanish. I couldn't even keep track of how long he held me in that terrifying grip. I was desperate for air, and the lack of oxygen made me feel like I was on the brink of passing out. Just when I thought I couldn't take it any longer, a courageous woman intervened, shouting at him to stop. He released his grip and fled. Thankfully, both the woman and a male staff member rushed to my aid, ensuring I was safe. They promptly called the police on my behalf, and I provided a statement, though I was still shaken. By the time the police arrived, the man was long gone, but the gym's security cameras captured his actions. His identity and whereabouts were known, making it relatively easy for the authorities to locate him. He was arrested the very next day. Despite his arrest and the revocation of his membership by Planet Fitness, I later heard that he was bailed out of jail. This unsettling news, combined with the traumatic incident, led me to make a crucial decision. I switched to a new gym. It turned out to be one of the best choices I've ever made. These days, I prefer to work out with a friend, as the trauma of what happened still lingers. The experience taught me that unexpected dangers can lurk anywhere, and it's essential to be prepared for worst-case scenarios. This ordeal reinforced the importance of personal safety and taking proactive measures to protect oneself. Remember, there's nothing wrong with prioritizing your safety, no matter what others might say. A few years back, I used to visit a 24-hour gym that was owned by people from our community. It was quite late at night, and I had just finished my work. Usually, when I went to the gym during those hours, there weren't many people around, not even the staff. Only members with special key cards could enter, and we had to let ourselves in. As I pulled into the parking lot, I noticed that there were no cars at all. It felt surprisingly peaceful, and I really enjoyed having the whole gym to myself. Approaching the entrance, I saw him from behind me. When I turned around, I was surprised to see an older man shuffling slowly. He was dragging his feet and seemed lost in thought, staring at the ground. Suddenly, our eyes met, and he stopped moving. In a hurry, I let myself inside, and the door locked after me. The whole situation felt strange, and it gave me an eerie feeling. Yet, with time, I forgot about it, thinking that maybe I was just being overly cautious. While I was in the middle of my workout, doing squats, something caught my attention from the corner of my eye. I could have sworn I saw movement, but when I turned to look, there was nothing there. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. It bothered me, even though I had no proof. I just wanted to understand why I felt that way, and why the bad feeling persisted. Later on, I was putting back the dumbbells I had been using, and suddenly, a loud noise echoed from the other side of the gym. It sounded like a bunch of things falling to the ground. My heart raced, and I was filled with fear. My first instinct was to run out of the gym. I'm not exactly sure why, but I think I was just overwhelmed with fear. My stomach felt uneasy, and I was short of breath. I knew something was amiss, and that I should leave, but I felt completely frozen. Just when I gathered the courage to escape, the lights suddenly went out. I can't find words to express how frightened I was at that moment. Acting quickly and as quietly as possible, I made my way to the women's restroom and locked myself in one of the stalls to hide. I reached for my phone to dial 911, but unfortunately, I had no service and the call wouldn't connect. It was an incredibly frustrating situation, but it didn't stop there. Soon after, I noticed a light coming from the entrance of the restroom. I also heard whistling and a man's voice saying, "I know you're in here. You might as well come out and say hello." It felt so unbelievable that I even wondered if I was trapped in a nightmare. I tried to wake myself up, but it was clear that this was reality, and I had to face my fears. This was exactly the kind of situation my family had warned me about. They always cautioned me not to go out alone at night, especially to unfamiliar places. Suddenly, I remembered the older man I had seen in the parking lot. A feeling of dread washed over me as I thought it might be him. I couldn't believe that this was happening to me. There wasn't even time to process that thought, because right then, I heard footsteps approaching the stall I was in. I heard a light knocking sound on one of the stall doors. There were several stalls, maybe around 8 of them, and he knocked on all of them, including mine. I'm not sure why he didn't try to open them. Maybe he was toying with my fear. It was obvious that he knew I was there. Eventually, he began to open the stall doors, and I could hear them creaking open slowly, one by one. It was just a matter of time before he found mine. I felt trapped again. But as he moved to the other side of the restroom, I seized the opportunity. I quickly dropped to the floor and crawled out of the stall. Then, I bolted out of the restroom, screaming for help. He yelled after me, saying he just wanted to talk, but I knew I had to get away. In that moment, I experienced a level of fear I had never felt before. It was more than fear. It felt like a matter of life or death. I was alone with this man, and he seemed dangerous. I had to escape his clutches. As the lights came back on, I managed to get a good look at him. He was the same older man from before, with white hair and an average height. His hairstyle was a bit wild, like Albert Einstein's. He was quite thin, and he appeared to be either drunk or under the influence of drugs. He tried to chase after me, yelling. He even made a disturbing offer of $50. Fortunately, I was faster than him, and I managed to outrun him. I never encountered that man again, and I truly hope I never do. This experience has just left me shaken, but I'm grateful that I was able to escape that terrifying situation. Thank you for joining us for this journey. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Goodbye.